Welcome to my escape. If you're new here, my name's Katie, and on this channel, we talk about books if you're not getting the vibe. Today is going to be my fall wrap-up, so we're going to do September and October together. To make this more manageable, we're not going to do any rereads, and we're not going to do any Lola Glass. She's going to be getting her whole own entire video, because otherwise half this video would literally be her book. So we're going to go over about 16 books from this fall. We do have some horror. We have some fantasy romance, some regular romance, and I think we even have a thriller. And if you see little ears poke up every now and again, my cat has decided that she's gonna sit on my lap for this video. I'm filming this video on October 31st. I'm not entirely sure when you'll get it, but for me, it's Halloween day. Okay, so I want to start with the spooky reads. So we're going to start with horror, and that this month was Bad Girls Don't Die. This I've had on my shelf for only a couple years, but it is an older YA series. I don't read scary. I don't like to be scared. I have a vivid enough imagination. I like to sleep. Eventually, okay? When I read scary books, I don't sleep. So picking this up was a bold step for me, but it was on the shelf. I haven't been home that long, so having all my books out finally together in one place for the first time in like 10 years, I saw this and I said, now is the moment. It's here, it's accessible, and it's a spooky read. So our main FMC is kind of like a high school loner, a bit of a hater, not gonna lie, but don't let that deter you, okay, because it sets it up for character development. It's not the author just being like, oh my god, she's a pick-me. No, okay, character development, we love it. You gotta start low. But she starts to notice her little sister acting strangely, doing a bit of like odd behavior, like why are your feet covered in mud at 2 in the morning? Suspicious. She's hearing rumors around her school about her sister's actions towards her friends in the middle school, and she's like, this is very odd. And then, you know, you got a possessed sister, what do you do? What do you do from there? How do you save the family, save the town? There's creepy houses and dolls and possession and children, which are just scary to begin with. There's attempted murder, there's bullying, there's everything you could possibly want in a scary book, I guess. But there's enough of Alex just being like a teenage girl that it didn't like destroy my mind mentally, which I appreciated and I loved. This actually had me absolutely hooked. I did lose sleep because I started it at like midnight the day my parents left, which is just an awful decision that I keep repeatedly making, but I didn't pull an all-nighter to read it, and then I just laid in bed, couldn't sleep. The ending, like this could be a standalone if you want it to be. It is a trilogy, but it looks like they're kind of same characters, but kind of different stories in each book, which I kind of love because that gives me something to read next Halloween. But I did love it, and I would actually highly recommend, especially if you're like me and you're soft. Okay, if you don't love the whole scary world, this is a nice taste. This is a nice spooky taste without like destroying your ability to exist. We love. And then the second horror I read was The Book of Living Secrets. This is like considered gothic horror. I initially thought it was like fantasy, but everything that's like rated it says gothic horror. So that's what we're gonna go with for this one. You open on 2 high school girls. They've been friends forever. They both love this romance story, like love this romance book, have read it cover to cover a bazillion times. And they, through a series of events, end up falling into their favorite romance. Except when they get there, they open the story at different times, like different parts of the book. So as they're working to find each other in the story, they realize that something is very, very wrong with the world. And them appearing in the world has caused like basically rips in reality. And there's like these monsters and these diseases that are just kind of flooding this like novel world that they love, and it's no longer a romance. Okay, you're trapped in a nightmare. So not only are they trying to find each other, they're trying to survive. Okay, it took me a little while to get into this one. I will say though that once I was into it, I was hooked. I really loved the detailing, the description, the imagery. I found the story very, very original, and as a romance girly myself and a fantasy girly, I was like, this is kind of hilarious that they thought they were falling into a romance and ended up in like a gothic horror. But it was a really cool world to see, and this is just like such a minor thing, and it's not really a spoiler, but I just loved how the author highlighted that just because the MMC in a romance novel is like a perfect soul match for the FMC or for like the other main character doesn't mean they're just like automatically across the board perfect at everything. Like there's definitely rose-colored glasses from the perspective that you're reading it in. And I liked how once they were in the story, they made their own judgments on the characters that they felt that they had known for so long. I just thought that that was really like showing the depth of, you know, personalities and humanity. And then for this one, the ending, chef's kiss, okay? Was not expected. was not expected. I just really loved it. This is a standalone, so it's not a cliffhanger. I just love how the story left off and how your mind can kind of run with it from there. Very fun, very original. Okay, the next one I'm gonna put up on screen because I'm patting my cat. Again, you can't see her and I feel like I'm crazy just being like, oh my god, I'm patting my cat, and then you just don't see me do anything, but she's down here. So The Silent Patient, yes. So this one I've wanted to pick up for quite some time, but I'm not a thriller girly, and I always figured that if anything was going to get me into thrillers, it would be this book. So there's been a lot of pressure put on it. And this Halloween, it was on my shelf and I was like, you know what? It's finally time to pick this up. So in this story, essentially, this woman murdered her husband, and then after the crime was committed, she didn't say a word. Not to the cops, not during her trial, not to her friends. She basically gets put in like a criminal mental institution and remains silent for 6 years. That's kind of where we jump in. And then our male main character, he comes in and he's a psychotherapist of some kind, and he's just been obsessed with this case. She was like an artist, she left some like hints in her art, he thinks, and he really, really wants to get to the bottom of what happened. So when a job posting opens up in like her facility, he takes it immediately and he just goes like on this big journey, I guess, to discover and unpack what happened that night. I can tell you, I'm not a thriller girly. Even after this one, I'm not a thriller girly. I've given up, okay? I do not care. I do not care, okay? If I have to wait 50% of the book for anything to happen and then 90% to figure out what is happening, I don't care. I don't care. I am so checked out before that point. So I just have decided that thrillers are not my genre, okay? All the luck to you if it's yours. This book had such high ratings, and the premise sounded so interesting to me. I was like, oh my god, yes, that's gonna be the one. It was not the one. And like I said, this was on my shelf. It no longer is because I hated it, okay? I sold it. It's spooky season, so I was like, I could wait for this video to go up, but it's spooky season, I'll have an easier time selling it before, so I just sold it when I could. I've already gone through my Goodreads and deleted all the thrillers I had on there because it's not for me. It's not for me. Moving on to fantasy, this is a YA fantasy, Messenger of Fear. Oh, we're getting bad reflections from my lights. Anyways, another one that I've had on my shelf for probably a decade. And I finally was able to pick up because I wanted to always read this during spooky season, but spooky season, I was always at university or somewhere else that my books were not, and this was buried deep, deep in tote. So we were finally able to pick this one up. So this is like YA fantasy gore. I don't know if that's a category, but it's what I'm putting it in. A girl wakes up and she's now the apprentice to the Messenger of Fear. And she's like, I'm sorry? Come again? And he's just like, yeah. We're weird ghost type things that can go through walls, and we watch people commit atrocious acts, and then we decide their punishment. And she's like, I would like to wake up now. Someone pinch me, please. And he's like, no, you're paying penance. This is what we do now. And she's like, paying penance for what? Because she does not remember a single thing about her life. As you kind of just go through these like 3 horrific acts by 3 different like groups of people, and then the absolute gory punishments that they kind of dole out, and then you're finding out like how did she get here and what is she paying penance for. Well, also like it is quite a thin book, but they did try to build up like a mythology or a world building around what the Messenger of Fear is. It wasn't bad. It wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be, yet it was far more gory than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more like tense and like spooky vibes, but it was more like gore. I don't have another word for it. It was more gory than I anticipated in a YA book. I do think also, I just have read it a little bit late now, it's very deeply entrenched in the high school, in bullying, in, you know, cyberbullying and getting jumped in the school parking lot and stuff like that. Like, yes, it was 3 different stories, but all 3 groups were high school aged. So it was just very like out of touch with where I am now. And usually it doesn't really bother me. Like, I like a lot of YA books, but this I just felt was really like a moment in time. Recommend this to like a young high schooler or a middle schooler, but for where I'm at right now, I wasn't that invested in the characters, I wasn't that invested in the story, and although there were like gory moments that have stuck with me, it's not a book I'm gonna remember for long. And then another one I picked up actually right after Messenger of Fear was Guardian of the Dead, because this is another one that just based on the cover I have always been saving for spooky season, and has also been sitting on my shelf for like 7 or 8 years. Not quite as long as Messenger of Fear, but definitely quite a while. same story. I was never here during spooky season. It was buried in a tote. But when I finished Messenger of Fear, I felt really good about finishing one that had been on my shelf for so long. And I had this in the back of my mind and been like, here's another one. And this is like all based on Indigenous New Zealand mythology, which I had no basis of. I had no premise of. If you don't know what that is, like me, it's a mixture between like evil fairies and Moana, which seems weird. But when you think about geographically where Hawaii and New Zealand are located, and the fact that Moana was all about her people, you know, going out and finding new places on the seas, it actually makes sense that there'd be some crossover. So just take my words for it, okay? We follow our main girl. She's in high school. She's going to a boarding school, and some weird things start happening, and she starts to lose her memory, and she's trying to figure out what is going on, and she kind of just stumbles into this world of magic and mayhem. That sounds like a really boring synopsis, which is why I started with the mythology thing, because I don't want to give too much away, because I liked going into this book virtually knowing nothing. I didn't read the back before I picked it up again. I didn't remember what it was about at all. I solely went off the fact that I liked the cover. It was a spooky cover, and it was Guardian of the Dead, and it was Halloween, okay? So, going a bit blind. What I will say about this is that it's a standalone. It's not that long. It doesn't give high school vibes. Like yeah, she's in high school, but it's not really like rooted in that. And it was just, like everything about this was new to me. A lot of that was because the mythology was new. And what I really, really liked is that it felt like a trilogy, but it was only one book. And I say that in the best way. Not that it was long. Like, it was very fast paced, but it wasn't just one villain. It wasn't like you were waiting to the end of the book for the villain to be confronted. It was like there were villains and battles throughout, and then the story just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I loved that. I was really engaged with this one. I really, really enjoyed it, and I do remember when I initially picked it up, the FMC really irritated me. There's a lot of body negativity in this, and some I hate other girls because I'm not comfortable like with how I look, and that really, really irritated me. But again, in this one, it is laying a foundation of character growth, and we can appreciate that, and that, you know, it is a real struggle. I just don't like reading about it when it's justified in the end. And that's always my worry when it starts that way. I'm just like, okay, but are we going to correct this, or am I going to hate the character in the end? In this one, like, I'm not saying it's corrected, but I am saying that there's a lot of character growth in it, and it's being set basically as like, I'm an insecure high school student kind of thing. I really, really enjoyed it, and I would highly, highly recommend this one if you're just looking for something new and mythology based, but you know, not the ones you know, not like the Greek or the Roman or the classics. Try something new, try this. I really, really loved it. And then moving into fantasy romance, I read Fated to the Feral Wolf because I realized I might not be a thriller girly, but I am a werewolf girly, and it is solely because of Lola Glass. It truly is. Like, I was never a werewolf girl before. I really wasn't. Now, Lola Glass has me in a chokehold with that one, okay? But at the time, I'd ran out of her werewolf books to read, so I was looking for something along the same lines and kind of like the same author type, and I stumbled across Fated to the Feral Wolf. This is a second in 3 interconnected standalones. Technically, you don't have to read them in order. I probably should have, though. There's a lot more underlying plot in these ones running through the whole series than other books that are called interconnected standalone, where it's just the characters that pop in and out. There's actual, like, plot going through all 3. Anyways, it was fine. It was fine. You could jump in. So the series, each book is dedicated to one of 3 best friends. So in ours, she's the best friend of the main girl, Alpha. And then she gets claimed by a feral wolf. And it's, you know, werewolves are all like fated mates and everything like that. So when this feral wolf comes and he's basically like stakes a claim on her, the pack goes, absolutely not. Feral wolves are dangerous. They can kill people. Like, the human side is dead. They've been trapped in their wolf form too long. This can't be. And she's just like, well, he's my fated mate. Don't kill him, please. And then the way the wolf behaves is very clear that like the human is still inside. The human still has some control. But for some reason, he's not changing back. And they can't really figure that out. But because he's not harm and he is behaving in a way that they understand that, you know, it's not just a feral wolf, he's able to walk around with the girl and go about, you know, the rest of the world building, the plot and the development that's happening while she tries to coax him to change. Now, I am a werewolf girly, I think, just because I really, really want a dog. So bad. I love dogs. And I love my cat too, don't get me wrong. Okay, this is why I don't have a dog. But we love her. So in the werewolf book, the longer the guy is just simply a wolf, the happier I am. because it's really just me reading about a character and her dog. And I'm like, that should be me. And then the werewolf changes into a man and I'm like, oh, I'm bored. I'm bored. And that's what happened with this book, okay? I did not care about the actual couple at all. I didn't really care for the guy. I found him irritating. I liked the wolf better. I didn't care for the girl, and that wasn't just me, you know, being like, whatever. I don't know if this was intentional by the author. I'm gonna assume it wasn't, but it was like she was a side character in her own book. So I cared more about the girl from the first book and the last book because their stories were overshadowing her in her own book. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. If the third book was published already, I don't really have any desire to go back and read the first. If the third book was published already, I would have dropped this immediately and picked it up. However, because it doesn't get published until mid-November, I simply finished this book to get scraps of the couple I wanted, which is the third book. It could just be a me thing, and I am gonna go back and read the third book eventually, so it's not like I hated the writing or I hated the world or anything like that. I just found the characters boring, and I liked him better as a dog. It's my opinion on that one. This is my cat Bella. Back to sleep on my lap now. Don't leave me. Okay, so essentially when I got back, I found this new business that was doing blind date with a book in my city. And I have never understood the concept of that in stores because I was like, I'm paying full price for a book that I don't know when I have all the selection that I do. However, for some reason, I really just wanted to try it with her. I just did. She had a lot of like cool bookmarks and you got like a tea with it and like stickers and stuff, and she was fun to talk to, and you know, she curtails it to you and she's like, you know what, send me like the books you've read and I'll make sure it's not a repeat. And I'm like, oh my god, this sounds so fun. She's like, I have a spooky spicy Halloween rom-com. And I said, done. Done, 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 done. Yes. And it ended up being A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. And it came with little tabs, so I even tabbed my book. It's not a normal thing that I do. And in this one, our main FMC is a witch who, since the day she was born, has been prophesized to be this like incredible magic wielder, super powerful, etc, etc, etc. Except she's not. She's in her late 20s now. She can barely do basic spells. Her whole family is like really mean to her because of it. And she just has very low self-esteem because, especially her mother, but her whole family just treats her like shit. So while she's practicing, because they're always like, practice, 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 you can do better than this. She's practicing, she accidentally summons a demon. Now the demon can't leave until she makes a bargain for her soul. And she's like, well, I'm not doing that. And he's like, well, you summoned me, so I'm stuck here until you make this deal. So now they're stuck together because he can only be so far away from her. They're stuck together. She's not going to make a deal for her soul. And now he's having to deal with like a lot of like human emotions and like experiences that he's never had to deal with before, despite being, you know, centuries old demon. And then they have to explain why they're always together all the time. So they're like, you know, blurt it out. She's awkward. She's awkward. She's quirky. They're fake dating. As we see the tabs. I did have fun in the beginning, okay? I thought it was funny. They had some moments as hee-hee, ha-haing. I hated this by the end. I wanted to DNF this one so bad, and I refused to because it was this blind date with a book thing that I really like wanted to experience. But oh my god, did I hate it? Did I hate it? I actually skimmed all of the spice in this book. I never skim, okay? Regardless of how I feel about the book, I never skim it. I skimmed this one. I skimmed this one because I couldn't do it any longer. I just needed it to end. And I can't skim, not because I just like, oh, it doesn't feel like you read the book. No, I can't skim because it makes myself so nervous that I'm going to miss something important. What is going to be important happening when they're getting railed? I don't know. Okay, but in my head, I'm like, no, you're going to miss something important. There was nothing important in this entire book. That's why I felt so comfortable and confident that I could skim, because there wasn't something you could possibly miss even if you never picked this book up, and I would actually recommend that. And yes, I did post this to sell, but then nobody bought it because they have better judgment than me. I took it down and I will sell it next Halloween. It's fine. It'll just sit on my shelf forever now. With that said though, no hate to blind date with a book, and I'm so excited. Okay, I'm so excited for my next one. I wanted to get the next one immediately, and my parents were like, take a look at your shelves. Maybe read what you own. I was like, valid. However, I don't have it down with me, and again, cat, so maybe I'll take a picture and like show it. It came with this like bookmark that's also a reading list, and yeah, I track all my reads on Goodreads. Here's a plug, go follow me on there. But I do track them there, but I was like, this will be fun and cute. But I said I can only put books on there that I physically own, that I've read. Like post getting this one, so this was the first one listed. And then only once I finish it can I buy another blind date with book. And it has been super, super motivating, okay? Super motivating for reading books that I physically own. So there was something good that came out of it. Also, I got a really cute dark romance reader sticker that we love. And then another plug, you can go watch the book haul, which was the last video I posted, because I went on a huge book buying binge for like a month and just kept buying and buying and buying and buying more books. Hi? Yeah, 1 second. My dad got home, so my cat ditched me. But that meant I could go upstairs and get this. So this was what I was talking about. So it came in the book, but then you also get to track your reads, the date you read them, the rankings. It's like a little paper Goodreads. So once it's filled out, there are 20 spaces on this. Once it's physically filled out, then I get to buy a new blind date with a book. I'm kind of crushing it. But yes, so in the book buying, I got a bunch of the Barbarian Alien, okay? I got those two right there. I got this one. And they're in the stack because I forgot I said I wasn't going to do rereads. But I bought them. So then I picked up, of course, again, Ice Planet Barbarian. We're not going to talk about it, read it. And then I picked up Barbarian Alien. And this one, okay, I'm going to briefly mention because the novella, or I guess it's not technically a novella, but it's 246 pages. That's what I read the first time when I read it online on KU. Okay, this is all extra content. This is like 100 pages or whatever of extra content we love. So yeah. So we read that one, and then I still wanted more of the world, but I wanted a new story. So then I jumped into Ice Planet Barbarian 6, Barbarian's Mate. And it follows Hayden and Josie. She's the last of the human women to be unmated, and when her cootie, her parasite, finally vibrates, it's for a guy that she cannot stand. She cannot stand. So she basically runs away from the tribe because she refuses to be this guy's mate. She holds out for longer than anybody else in the story, and that was really cool to see how far you could actually push this parasite thing. Also, I loved the physical journey that she went on, not like a character journey, okay? It's not a lot of character journeys in this, but the physical journey that she went on, getting to see like more of the Ice Planet, callbacks to other books, but actually expanding the world because at the end they find 2 more humans, so we get even more books, you know? So I did really like that. I just didn't like the characters whatsoever, which I feel like is a very big trend in this video, but Hayden and Josie, don't care. Don't care. Don't care. Especially Hayden, he really, really irritated me, and I get it. He's traumatized. I don't care. I don't care. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. And if you're going to be a dick, you better go through some damn good character development. He did not. He did not. So the world was fun. It gave me the vibes I wanted, but I didn't care about the couple, and I really didn't like the MMC. Then, as I mentioned, at the end of that one, 2 new humans were introduced, and I skipped book 7 because I didn't really care about that human. I wanted to follow the feisty human, so I went to book 8. Again, these are very short and very shallow. You don't need to read them in order if you don't want to, and I didn't want to. So, picked up book 8. This follows Maddie and Rook, something like that. In book 7, one of the girls gets kidnapped by one of the blue alien men because he really wants a mate. And he's not like traumatic or anything. He's basically just like, I'm just gonna like be close enough to you that I'm gonna hope our cooties resonate for each other, and then they don't. And that's book 7. Book 8 is the sister of the girl that got kidnapped and the guy that did the kidnap. So he's exiled. She's really lonely because while her sister was gone, she was really aggressive towards the tribe, which is fair. Planet you don't know, aliens you don't know. One of them has already kidnapped your sister and nobody cares about it. I would also be violent and angry. But in those actions, she's isolated herself from the rest of the tribe, and her sister comes back mated to somebody else. So her sister's like brought into the tribe and like all that, but she's on the outskirts and he's exiled. So she kind of like seeks out a relationship, or at least a physical relationship with him, because she's just really, really lonely. And so is he. They kind of just like go about things. There's a lot of like walking, like just walking in these stories. So she like gets him to teach her how to hunt so that she can be more capable. Now, I probably liked the world the best, or second best. Nothing will top the first one, but the second best of all the other ones I've read. But again, I hated the couple. I didn't hate the couple, sorry. I hated her. But the world was a lot of fun because a lot of things changed with the world in this book. So the world in the other books, you know, it was very small, contained. You're on an ice planet. There's like, you know, 3 other existing species. Like, it wasn't a lot that went into the world building. In this one, she kind of like blew up the world, metaphorically speaking. but she made it so that, you know, it forces everybody into new situations and new things are occurring and they're facing new challenges. And in doing that, it like uncovered some things about the planet. And I loved that. I loved that. I already know there's like 22 books in the series or something right now. So I knew somehow it had to expand. And I loved watching that happen in this book. What I didn't love was the female main character was so annoying and useless and complaining. I was like, you're supposed to be the feisty one. And she was feisty, but she was so irritating and I couldn't stand her. But I did like the world. I did like the world expanding, and I will be continuing on with the series, but it's like short snippets, you know? Like I can do 2 or 3 at a time and then I gotta move on. Okay, getting into the romance. So the one book I actually am picking up from September is Package Makes Perfect. This was really cute, a small town romance. Our female main character is dating this guy and she walks in and he's cheating on her. She walks in with the guy's cousin who sees this happen and he's like, oh my god, we gotta get you out of here. So she crashes at his place while she tries to like find her bearings. And then, you know, because small town and this and that and blah blah blah, it just kind of slips up that they're dating. Now they're fake dating, right? Because she can't backtrack with her ex that has cheated on her. So he's like, okay, you know what, we'll fake this together. And then it's just like watching them come together. What I really loved in this one was it has really good disability rep. It just set up like the cutest little like scene, and the author's so creative for this. But essentially our female main character is ex-military aviation mechanic. So she has pretty severe hearing damage in her left ear. Okay, important that it's the left. So whenever she's out with friends or with her boyfriend or with family, anything, regardless of the situation, if they're in a car, she only wants to be the driver. Because if she's the passenger or if she's in the back, it's really hard for her to hear. But if she's the driver, she can hear everything with her right, and it just like works way better for her. You know, it puts her in situations and stuff because you can't always be the driver. And sometimes you're like, I love driving, but sometimes it's nice to just like relax. So he is perfect writing. He's a mailman. Okay, which isn't that important in the beginning until he takes her for a date and he goes, no, I'm driving, don't worry about it, you just relax, because she's in a very stressful situation. You just relax. And they get in and she's like, I don't want to make a big deal about it, like, you know, because she's a bit self-conscious about the disability and stuff, and she's like, he's trying to be nice, like, I don't want to make a big deal of it. And then they go out to the mail van and he drives on the right. So she still gets to sit on the left-hand side and like hear everything and like still be comfortable and confident in the conversation without physically having to drive. And I just thought that was so creative and I loved it, and that is gonna live rent-free for the rest of my life. Okay, I also picked up The Au Pair Affair. It's a hockey romance. And I have said on this channel plenty of times, I hate hockey romances, and I do. Why did I pick this up? I don't know. I saw it in the airport when I was coming home. Tessa Bailey, love her. I was like, what if I just dabbled? And then I put a hold on the library because I wasn't going to spend $22 on a hockey romance. I'm sorry, but no. Okay, I was coming home for a reason, and that's because I'm broke. So, essentially, in this one, you have an NHL player, single dad. He's got like a preteen daughter. He needs a nanny. In the first book, because this is the second in an interconnected series, in the first book, he meets the best friend, fiance of his best friend, somehow like that. Somehow they get connected and she accepts this job. Then walking into this novel, you go on the day that she's gonna take it and she's having like severe second thoughts and she doesn't want to, and she's kind of panicking and she tries to back out, okay, because she's afraid of living with a violent man, and he is a goon on the ice, so he gets in fights like all of the time. So she's like, he's big, he's violent, you know, it's just gonna be the two of us and like his daughter, but you know, so no. And then he goes, that's not who I am, like off the ice, but I understand like you're scared and you're worried and stuff like that, so let's make this work. And he's just so patient with everything throughout, and she really comes to like be comfortable around him. And I just love this book. Like the first 50%, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna be like Brendan Tar, whatever his last name is, from It Happened One Summer, like level book boyfriend. He was so patient, he was so warm, and just like let her like work up to everything she needed to do, because you know, obviously her past is revealed and she has a very traumatic backstory, very traumatic. So you know, just watching him just be that patient guy was so cute and like made my heart so warm. I was like, oh my god, am I actually gonna love a hockey romance? And then at that 50% mark, wow, it went way downhill. Way downhill, okay? Because the first 50% was like, again, her becoming comfortable and her kind of trying to move past her past, trying to be this like outgoing, adventurous person she used to be, that she's been struggling to be again, and him just being like, you know what, you know that I'm standing behind you, like, you know I got you if anything goes wrong, and him just being that safety net allows her to kind of redefine herself. So cute to watch. The last 50% was all the hockey nonsense that I hate, okay? That I hate. I love hockey. Don't get me wrong, I love hockey. I've never understood the attraction to elite athletes. To me, it's just like the biggest ick. Like when they talk about pregame meals or pregame naps, or like their manager said this, you are a grown man. You are a grown man. And like in and around when I was reading this book, I watched the NHL docuseries with my dad on Prime, and they were talking about Nashville and, you know, how they were in the playoffs or whatever, and they were going to go to this U2 concert, and then they shit the bed on the ice, and the managers were like, you're not going on your field trip anymore, like blah blah blah, you're all going to get a good night's sleep, and we're going to like recoup for the next game. The point of the episode was that they did come back in the next game, and woo, yay. To me, why are grown men going on a field trip to begin with, and then basically getting grounded by another grown man? Disgusting. Biggest ick. I'm sorry. I respect professional athletes. I really do. Could never be me, okay? Could never be me. Love watching sports. Well, not don't love watching sports, but you know, I can appreciate the effort they put in. However, the fantasy around dating one of them, that's an overgrown child. Can't be me. I'm sorry. I can't. Okay, I also picked up the bonus, and this was just like an Instagram reel that I kind of stumbled upon, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta pick that up now. Halfway in, I realized that it is basically a spin-off, but in the same world as The Stopover and The Takeover and those books. And I don't remember which one I read, but I read one of those in like 2022, and I hated it. Tristan Kane, bleh, disgusting. But I didn't realize they were the same series, so my bad. The bonus is a billionaire, second chance, boss employee, secret baby romance. So there's a lot going on in it. And it is a longer romance. Like I think it's over 500 pages. But essentially you open, we have our FMC, she's crushing on her billionaire boss, and he's just not noticing her, and she's like, I can't go on like this because I'm literally obsessed with this man and he's never gonna see me as anything but his assistant. So she resigns and she buys a house across the country. On her last night, they have some spicy times, okay? They have a whole night of spicy times, but he doesn't want anything more in the morning. So she's like, okay, yeah, you broke my heart, but I'm gonna go. So she moves across the country. Then a couple months later, there's a pregnancy test. Oh my god, there's twins. And she's like, what? So she tries to get a hold of him, and he's like not taking her calls, not taking her meetings, won't see her, nothing. So she can't tell him. And then she's like, you know what? F it, I'm done. If you're gonna put this much of a wall in front of us when nothing actually bad happened between us, then I'm done. So she goes back to her home and she's raising her kids, and this book takes place over years. And then you kind of see both of them, you know, you get sporadic scenes of both of them as the kids grow up for a couple years, and then he stumbles across someone from his past who's like, oh yeah, didn't you know so-and-so had a baby or 2 babies or something around this time? And he starts doing the math and he's like, there's no way. So he flies out, realizes the kids are his, and then tries to find out where he's gonna fit in their life, at the same time being the CEO of this company on the other side of the country and also currently being engaged to another woman. It is messy, okay? It is so messy, but it had me in an absolute chokehold. Like, for what? I read this book so obsessively fast. Oh my god, I don't know why, but I would highly recommend. It was so fun, it was so intriguing, it's so like I didn't read the description on the back. I didn't read anything. I just saw the one like reel that had a line, and I don't even remember what the line was, and I said, yeah, that'll be my next read. I didn't know the author, didn't know the series, didn't know nothing. So I didn't know it was Secret Baby. I didn't know it was this, that, and the other thing. I knew nothing. And it was so fun because I was like, oh my god. I also didn't know it was 500 pages. I was just going and I was like, we have to be getting to the end here, right? We have to be getting to the end. Oh my gosh, she's pregnant now. What? Okay, we have to be getting to the end now. Oh my god, now there's this. Like, it was so fun. I recommend to everybody. Now, it's not a 5-star. I still have a lot of issues with the author's writing. It's very, like, a lot of ingrained misogyny in it, which I didn't love. And she is definitely a boy mom. Like, our main character is definitely a boy mom, which is not the vibe. Not what we want. So, like, go into it knowing those things because it does have its irritating moments. And it's not something, like, I recommend people live by. But it is a fun, dramatic time to read. So, live your best life and go read it. Okay, I also read Truth or Dare. It's a novella, beach destination, wedding. This group of college friends, you know, basically reunites for this wedding, and they're on this boat and they play a game of Truth or Dare, and these two college friends who are now in their 30s have to make out. And then when they make out, they're like, I felt sparks. Did you feel sparks? Because I felt sparks. And they just go through the rest of the weekend kind of exploring said sparks. So this one is on KU, but I actually bought it. It was one of the used books that I bought, which is why I picked it up, because I was like, oh my god, a novella, to cross it off my list, because I will cheat like that. I want another blind date with a book. So I was like, might have been why I was leaning towards Ice Planet Barbarians too. But anyways, not the point. The point is, you're seeing a picture of it now because I already sold it. Okay? I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It wouldn't be something I would ever go back for. I found the dialogue really, really cringy, especially because these people are in their 30s and they were talking like they were like 14. Or they were talking like how somebody who was 40 assumed a 14-year-old would talk. It was just it gave me the ick. The dialogue gave me the biggest ick. Also, I didn't understand how these people that are like, oh my god, we'll be friends forever. We have been friends forever. We're so close. Nothing's gonna break us. Are like mad and off about like the littlest things. And this is also just like not how a group of friends that I have ever heard of or I've ever been a part of would behave in any of the situations. So nothing really made sense. The motivations of the characters didn't make sense. The barriers of the characters didn't make sense. The reactions of the characters didn't make sense. And there was this like underlining thing or this like side part of this other woman drama, and none of that made sense whatsoever. I didn't actually have it posted. A friend reached out and said, hey, I'm going on like a beach holiday. I want like a fun smutty time. You got anything you're willing to give up? And I said, you know what? I literally just finished this today and I know I don't need it on my shelf, so here, take it. So it wasn't so bad that I was like, get off my shelf right now. It was just like the way life went. Again, your girl needs money. So I'm like, here you go. Okay, and then I finally picked up Love in Other Words. This has been big on the platforms forever, and it's been on my shelf for like a year and a half. This one is like a friends to lovers second chance romance. Single POV, you only are in our FMC's point of view, but two timelines. So, you know, you have your main timeline, the present, and then you have the past that's slowly working up to the incident. That's how we're gonna lay it out. So in the past, when she was about 13, her dad bought basically a summer home and they moved into it for the summer. The boy next door who lives there all year round, same age, and they bond over books. So it kind of follows them every summer that they hang out, and every time they're out there as they get closer and closer, and like their friendship grows, and then eventually like a romantic relationship grows from there. But you know that something happened from the present 10 years before it where they stopped talking. And you don't know what it is. So the past is leading up to this incident, and then the present, they've ran into each other after not talking for 10 years. They finally run into each other, and he's just like, we were such good friends, like we were each other's worlds, let's try to make this better. And she's like, oh, like we can try. It was so cute. It was so cute. I cried. Okay? I cried because it was cute. I cried because it was sad. You get an inkling of like what could have happened. Maybe a third of the way through, you get an inkling of what the event could have been. And I just spent the rest of it being like, I'm wrong. No, I'm wrong. Please let me be wrong. I'm wrong. Don't let that be the thing. And then it was the thing. And then I bawled. Bald is aggressive, but I did cry. Physical tears down my face. I love the writing. I do love Christina Lauren. I read a lot of her over the summer. This was the first physical book of hers I was able to pick up, and it's the only one I own, but I read a lot of her ebooks over the summer. I loved it. I would highly recommend. It deserves all the hype it's getting. We love it. Okay, we love it. Oh, also, I will say, this gives the same vibes as People We Meet on Vacation, except this one's more sad. And I like this one better. I didn't really love People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, but the same like timeline vibes, friends to lovers. So if you liked People We Meet on Vacation, definitely read this one. If you didn't like that one, still read this one because I love this one and didn't like that one. So just throwing that in there. Okay. And then lastly, finally on the list, we have Wicked Beauty. So this is the third in Katie Roberts' Dark Olympus series, I think it's called. Yes, Dark Olympus. The first is Neon Gods, if you're familiar. This is more smut than plot, I will say. But in my book buying binge, I bought these two, which are the fourth and fifth in the series. I already had this one on my shelf, but I was like, well, I guess it's time to pick it up, considering I now have two more in the series to get to. So it is more smut than plot, which is pretty much Katie Roberts' brand, but it was more plot than I was expecting, being, you know, Katie Robert. And I just kind of loved it. So essentially in this world, there's no magic. It is Greek retelling, but like there's no magic. It's just the Greek names. The only magic is that there's a barrier around the city which isolates it from any like international interference. So basically they're in a closed system. You have Zeus and Poseidon and all that, but they're not like people necessarily, but they're political titles. Like Ares is up for grabs in this book, which is the political title of like basically the head military officer. So she is just like, she is fed up with being like a pawn for everybody's power plays, so she puts her name in to win the Ares role. Basically there's a bunch of trials that you have to go to, like physical trials to show that you'd be a good military leader, and then she falls into bed with two of her competitors. One of them, okay, was a childhood friend of hers, and the other one is that childhood friend's boyfriend. And then you got some spicy times. But really, Katie Robert, like in this world, it's setting up an interesting world, but really it's developing relationships between characters that have been brutally betrayed and backstabbed by every other person they've trusted in their life, and trying to find some way to build like a healthy relationship with all this baggage. I loved it. I had a lot of fun. There was trials, there was a labyrinth, you know, there was a minotaur. I do love Katie Robert. I love her worlds. I love the way she depicts like consent and conversations and communication. Like regardless of what the story is, that's always going to be in there, and I really love that. And I also love how gender and sexuality do not matter in her worlds. Like anybody can present as anything and date anybody, and nobody bats an eye because it's all okay and it's all just accepted in society and that's normal. And I just love that. Okay, and that is the end of the fall wrap up. I am just gonna hold up the stack and I'm gonna put the barbarians back on it, and also imagine, maybe I'll just put this one because this is about the size of The Silent Patient. And then another novella. This is a novella. This is essentially the stack of physicals I read. I did want to mention, because it is October 31st for me, I did receive an ARC from one of our watchers, which is really nice. I love when you guys like reach out to me, especially with books. Okay, I love. And he's published a book and it comes out today. I haven't been able to get through the whole arc. It is a bit thicker, but I am into the first chapter and I do really like the writing style, and I do have high hopes for the rest of this book moving forward. So I just wanted to drop it in there a little because that is out today, so you can pick it up and read it today. It is a high fantasy. He's marketing it based off of The Night Circus, so I love The Night Circus. If you love The Night Circus, give it a go. I just like the tone that the first chapter is setting, and you should read it so that then we can talk about it next month. But you will hear more about it in my November wrap-up, which will be sometime in the future. Until then, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I post videos when I'm feeling like it, but if you don't want to miss anything, you can hit that notification bell, and then anytime I post something, you'll be notified. Otherwise, you can just check in when you're feeling like it, and hopefully there's new content for you to watch. See you soon!